Yeah, it's not. It's not.
We'll start with this part. Hey, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome to the first meeting of 2022. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gary Wiley. I'm the president for 2022. You know, with the elections at the Christmas party, I was elected the president. Dr. Michael Stone, the vice president. Jamie Wiley is the treasurer. Kim Root is the secretary. And our directors this year is Jackie Kindred, Chris Earnhardt, and Rosemary Clifford. And Rosemary, I believe, is in Florida until March, but she's looking forward to getting back. She's communicated with me a few times. Hey, I want to take just a minute and, you know, I want to thank Tom Rath publicly for, you know, in his time as the president, you know, he led the club through 2 years of the COVID that went on, and he guided the club through that. And I really feel like his leadership really helped the club, because I don't know if you know it or not, but several of the clubs in the state kind of fell apart. So I think that's something when you see Tom, congratulate him, because I think that's really, he did a great job communicating and getting us together. And it was really difficult back then, you know, trying to do Zoom and different things. So I just want to thank Tom for that. Hey, and I got several announcements I want to make before I get into the meeting. The Tri-County Spring Workshop put on by the Tri-County group. That's scheduled right now for March 4th and 5th. And if you've never been to one of those, it's a pretty big to-do. I think we're going to stop registration at about 1,000 people this year. I just sent my registration in actually today. But if you haven't looked into that, if you've never been there, go online and look at the Tri-C Workshop. It's called the Tri-C Spring Workshop. They got a lot of speakers, and they have it at one of Ohio State's buildings there at that Department of Agriculture that they have. So, also, our dues for 2022 is due. And I think before we came tonight, I think we collected dues for like 40 of our members so far. And the idea is, per our bylaws, we collect dues up through the March meeting, and then that's our roster for the year. Anybody that's left on the roster, we basically remove them. So, so dues is due now. And then also the beginner beekeeping class. That is scheduled for February the 19th. That's going to be at Cherry City Honey. Right now, the class is almost full. I mean, I would say it's full the way it's going. I'll bet when I go home tonight, the class might be full. I have 23 out of the 25 positions that's filled. So the class filled right up. And so it kind of felt pretty good seeing all those new beekeepers, you know, that was wanting to sign up for the class. And but I did want to put this out to everybody. If there's anyone that would like to get involved with helping to teach the class, we have it broken up into modules, so it's not like you teach the whole class, but the club put together their own PowerPoint. It's broken up into modules. You can select a module. If it's something you might be interested in, let me know. And Yeah, we'd love to have you. I think it'll be a good time. So about this meeting, what this meeting tonight is about, you know, our bylaws requires us to have a budget and to have it approved at the February meeting. And so right after the Christmas party in December, the new board members got together and we put together the budget for 2022. That's what you have right now in front of you. And if you would just look at that, I mean, is there any comments on the budget?
Are we going to be doing any fairs this year?
Well, what we're going to do this year is similar to what we did last year. Is when we get a little closer to time for the fair, we will gauge the interest to see, first of all, is there anybody interested in doing the fairs, and then which ones would we do? The last 2 years, we have really not had much participation on that, but it's really hard to tell how much of that is due to COVID and how much is due to just people not being interested in getting involved. So I think we'll have to see. We left leeway to do that if we want to do the fairs. So the budget is right there in front of you. I just wanted to give you a little bit of time to look at it. We need to get that approved at this meeting. What I'd like to do now is ask Tammy to give the treasurer report. You know, money kind of all goes together. And Tammy, if you could do the treasury report.
As of the end of today, we have $6,500. $25.
How much is in the savings?
So you can see we have a pretty good carryover from last year. But as we go throughout the year, there's things that always comes up, you know, things within the club that we fund or, you know, that we decide that we're going to do. And I would always rather start the year having some extra money than to start the year wondering how we're going to pay for everything. So, is there any questions on the budget that we passed out? Go ahead.
Could you explain when we were talking about promotions and advertising, that we broke down the brochures, fairs, trinkets, and education on a little bit more what we're going to do on education on that, and if somebody wanted to take it, and then also the OSBA affiliate charge, what that is.
Well, let me start with the OSBA affiliate charge first. And what I know about that, based on our number of members, we pay the OSBA a certain amount of money for each of our members. That covers like our insurance and things like that. So that's what that charge is for. And so it's really driven by the number of members that we have. And this year we did something a little bit different. Getting back to your other question about promotions and brochures. What we did this year is we kind of lumped some things together because, you know, one of our missions is to educate the public. Educate people about beekeeping, the importance of bees, and then also to work with new beekeepers. And so kind of what we were thinking here is we're going to start this year, we're getting our brochure redone. It's been several years since we had it redone. And then what we want to do is put the brochures in the hands of members who's going to be out giving presentations or being out in the public. I'll give you an example. I was contacted this week by the Erie County Master Gardeners. They'd like to come out to the barn and they'd like just a 40-minute presentation about beekeeping, maybe an hour. And so that would be how that education thing would fit together with brochures and trinkets. Every year, we usually do a couple of presentations at local libraries and different things like that. But the thing we really haven't had is like an updated brochure to take with us, tell them a little bit about us, tell them about this, all these beekeepers in their area, the benefits of beekeeping. So that's what we're trying to do, Chris, is we put that lump sum of money there to say it covers this broad area around education, brochure, any trinkets we might want to buy to hand out to children, that kind of thing.
Honey straws and stuff put in there.
Yeah, honey straws would be, they would fit in there too. So, yeah, that's what we were thinking though, is just make a pot of money for all those things. Yeah.
Put our own money in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they love honey straws. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
She's, let's see.
Sure. Is there any other questions on the budget? As you can see, we plan to take in a little bit more money than what we're going to put out. I also identified a fundraiser, and I'd like to work with maybe the master gardeners on that. In years past, we had sold plants, like plants that beekeepers would plant for their bees and get those plants started on their property. And so I don't know how that all is going to come together yet, but I just put a little bit of money in there for a fundraiser that I thought it might work out pretty good. If there's no questions on the budget, can I make
Richard make a motion that we accept it.
okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. So the budget for 2022 has been accepted, approved. Yeah, we can vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed?
You're in contact Gary Wise.
Yeah, it does. All right. There's another sheet that we passed out. I don't know. Did I? Okay.
A slack.
That's, you know, pretty good.
It is. I quit.
Pretty documented.
If you were attached to the Zoom meeting,
Like, currently, you can't-
I don't know. That's what I was trying to do, but I
Hey, the fun part's coming up.
Just take it, just take it out. We can share. Thank you. I'm just unsure.
Okay, the first sheet I want to talk about is this activity plan. So when the new officers got together and put together the budget, we also outlined the year of activities that is going to come up throughout the year. We wanted to just make a high-level schedule. This is what's going on this year. It's got the monthly meetings on there. Couple of things I want to call to your attention. You know, traditionally, we have had a pancake supper in March. You know, I'm a little torn on this one because I'm not sure that we've been getting enough members to the meetings right now to have a potluck. What I thought about doing is, well, do one of two things. We could hold the potlucks off until we do the workshops in the summer and have a potluck every time we get together. And then I also had somebody that asked, can we change this a little bit and maybe make it more like a chili supper instead of a pancake and sausage? So I'm interested in your viewpoints of it. What do you think?
We have a chili contest.
Well, I think, wasn't the sausage thing was started because of the Boy Scouts or something, and I don't know if we had necessarily have that connection anymore like we did.
We really don't. And we used what was called a Boy Scout mix for the sausage. And I don't know how many years that we've been doing it, but I talked to Tom Rathman about this, and Tom said, you know, we could change this to something else if we want. But but I left it on the schedule, pancake supper. But to be honest with you, if we had a group this size that showed up for pancake supper, I'm not sure that it would be beneficial.
Chili be easier.
Yeah.
Chili, yeah, I like
The
that.
other side is, would that help bring people back after 2 years of being off?
Well, it might. It might.
They always seem to come for free food though.
Well, first of all, is there anybody here that is, I mean, you're just, I've got to have pancakes and sauce. Is there, would anybody here be offended if we went to some, had like a chili supper or something like
I
that?
think it sounds good.
Good with that.
So what we're gonna do next month, let's plan to have a chili potluck here, chili supper. That sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Do you want everybody to bring chili, or will the club make the chili?
I think the club will make the chili. Just everybody bring something to share.
Bring a side or a
Yeah,
dessert?
bring something to share, and we'll make a big old pot of chili. I don't want to volunteer my wife, but she adds honey to her chili, and I gotta tell you, it's to die for.
What do you mean it'll kill you if you eat it?
Yeah.
Or to kill the person next to it.
Make sure the memberships are paid.
Certainly glad you got volunteered, but now the expectation.
Yeah, another like laying it on there heavy.
No, but really, if you've never had chili before with honey in it, you really gotta try it. Hey, something else I wanted you to notice is June, July, and August. Those are our 3 field days that we plan to have at the barn. But we're gonna change, we wanted to make the start times on these the same as the meetings. And so there's kind of a rhyme or reason to that, in that if we had, you know, after the meeting, if we wanted to have like a potluck, and I'm even open, if you want to have a bonfire, we could have a bonfire after the meetings out there too. I mean, but I thought we would start those at the normal start time, 7 o'clock, except for July. Because July 4th, which is our regular meeting day, is a holiday. So what I thought is that following Saturday, we would get together in the morning out at the barn for a topic. Any thoughts on that? Everybody okay with that? Not yet, but we'll get there. Yeah, July 9th. Now, usually we get together at 10 a.m. is usually what time that we start out. And now I want to refer you to the second piece of paper that came out. I'm sure all of you seen this come out in your email, and I got a lot of suggestions from folks about different topics that they'd like to see and that they're interested in. One of the comments we got last year at the end of the year, it was, hey, you know, we did a lot of stuff about just bees this year, you know, fundamental type stuff. Like we did a lot on mite control. You know, we did a bunch of stuff on it. And I had some comments, people said, you know, this year we really didn't do anything around that other stuff, like that would have to do with like wax and cream honeys and all those different things that beekeepers do that's not necessarily with their hands in the hives. So what I wanted to do is get some feedback from everybody before we had this discussion. You know, we got a meeting coming up next month, and we don't have a topic identified for it. So what I'd like to do is get a couple of meetings out with topics of things that you want to see or that you'd like, that you're interested in. Because, you know, it's, the club belongs to all of us.
They typically always in the past, like whatever the March meeting would be, is something you're gonna be doing in like April. So you're gonna be getting your stuff ready, you're gonna prepare, you know, you kind of plant that seed, hey, it's time to start cleaning stuff up, throwing stuff out, buying new stuff. Then in April, it's kind of the same way, and you know, month by month, if you look at one of those bee schedules of the bees' actual schedules, they always try to be a month or two before that. So that's kind of the way I think most of the meetings always felt.
Okay. So we've got the March meeting coming up. And looking ahead, you know, March is still, you know, it's, at least in my bee yard, usually there's not a whole lot of activity going on in March. But it depends on the year. But in looking at our list, what do you guys think about March?
I'd be interested in spring feeding supplements and what to do to get your hives. What to do with the hives, you know, when spring comes up.
Kind of like a spring management, spring feeding.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And it kind of goes along with it. I know I've got probably 2 dead hives. And so what do you do with the dead? I mean, the boxes and stuff, with hive dyes and kind of clean it up.
Okay.
One of the topics on this other sheet was what to do with dead brood and super boxes. There's a guy in Australia that had a big bonfire. He had a great big pot. He took all of his frames and dipped them, and the hot water melted the wax off, or the dirty wax. So he basically had a brand new frame ready to go. You know, it was pretty cool. It was an easy way to clean it, but you know, we don't really think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've met people that's pressure washed their frames, the old frames, pressure washed them, and you know, re-wax them, rub some wax on them, reuse.
One of our hives, this week, so we split the honey. And then we had. And they have looked at food and stuff.
That high well, and there isn't a bee in there. There's probably 100 dead yellow jackets. There isn't a honey bee in there, and in every frame I have in that whole hive is all drawn. It's absolutely perfectly ready for new bees. As far as I can tell.
It's only been 1 year, hasn't it? It's only 1 year old. I just leave the wax there, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I generally do is, of course, I'll clean all the yellow jackets and everything out.
Mhm.
But it sounds like you got a hive that's ready for new bees.
Yeah, it was really kind of weird because when I took the top cover off, that's where all the dead yellow jackets are. Right on the top. So they died. As it really turned cold and they were licking their chops. And then I broke the hive down and I took all the frames out in the air in the back.
You know, this was the worst year for yellow jackets that I can remember.
There was-
Really had a difficult time.
There was a suggestion on Zoom that maybe a meeting on native plants, how to plant seeds, how to take care of plots, where to purchase seeds and what plants in Ohio. Because in springtime, you'll be getting ready to, if you want to do some pollination gardens or something like that. But
That's a good suggestion.
If you're looking for seeds. A lot of things are already sold out.
yeah,
It's online,
He's got a question too.
so that's just on the route too. Has always had a lot of plants for college. Gotta get there before Mother's Day. So if you wait till Mother's Day weekend, people from Cleveland and all over, they've been here and they wiped them out. Birders come in, the salvia especially.
This is probably for you. Do we have that Zoom meeting we had last year or whatever? On pollination, remember?
yeah,
Is
I
that
think,
in like our archive?
yeah, I think I do have that in archive, yeah.
And we
The one that Rich,
possibly having that again.
that Rich did.
Well, I thought about that. Because one of the things I do early in the year, Tammy and I looked at pollinator, plants that we would add to our field, our acreage behind the house. Every year, we kind of go through this, but I'm not a gardener. I am not a master gardener. And I have trouble envisioning, first of all, what plants do I plant? So I make sure that my bees have something throughout most of the year. And then also keeping in mind butterflies and different things like that. But it's just, what do you plant? How do you plant it? When do you plant it? And that late February, March timeframe is usually when that comes up for us because we're not exactly out of the frost window yet. But the planning for that stuff has to happen back then. So I think that's a great idea.
Another thing that came up on here is, Doug was saying about getting things rolling in the spring. And one of the big topics is split management. Again, trying to prevent the swarm and how do you split your hives and there's no queens, how do you proceed through that early spring? And that was mentioned also in the.
So would we look at adding split management to the overall spring management?
I would say it'd be part of it, yeah.
That's usually the way that Tammy and I.
And then you look at your swarm traps, that's all part of the whole, it's the whole same thing, all happens there at one time.
It does, and it's really chaotic, and it happens quickly.
Yep.
Because usually in our bee yard, just about every hive gets split right away in the spring. So, I mean, it is chaotic.
And you let those requeen themselves?
I usually don't. What I will do is I'll buy queens, but they're just temporary queens. And then as soon as I can get local queens, I will get rid of those queens that I bought. That's from California or Georgia. I will get rid of them and replace them during the summer with local bees around here. But I don't like to leave the hive go a long enough time for them to make a queen.
Yeah.
I lose too many bees and affects our honey production. So it looks like we have two pretty solid topics. The only question would be which one would we do first? Would we want to do the pollinator plants? Would we want to do that next month, and then do the spring management at the beginning of April? What does everybody think? I could talk to Rick Kindred. He's the one that did the session on the pollinator plants and getting things ready for spring and everything. I could talk to him to see if he could come back and do that for us again. Last time, we did it by Zoom, and I'm not sure that, at least for me, I get more out of it if I'm right there.
I think that's probably more time sensitive. Like if you really want to start planting, you're gonna have to start doing that pretty quickly and stuff. That makes sense. In April, we'll still have time should have enough time yet to.
Yeah, because our April meeting is on April the 4th. So I think about what usually happens in our bee yard is usually about the 1st of March, I start getting pollen substitute out in the yard for the bees. Just depends on the weather, If the weather's warm, we start getting pollen sub up. But all that's really doing is giving them a start, getting them moving, kicking them along. And but really April's when the stuff really gets started, where we start doing splits and really usually our dead house, I don't get those cleaned out right away.
You have swarms move in before you get it cleaned out?
No, I've never had that happen yet. Yeah,
I had that.
did you really?
Yeah. From a lot of these.
So, Mike, do you think it's enough to just plan out the next 2 meetings and then
Yeah.
then what we'll do is we'll see what we want to do for May then after that, and then we'll get into the workshops. Any comments?
Sounds good.
Hey, so looking ahead at the workshops, that's our time where we actually, we can put hives out there, we can do anything we want out there at the barn. Any ideas on workshops? I mean, we got several things written down. Queen rearing, of course, we did that last year. We had a lady come in and show us how she, does queen rearing in her backyard. But it seems like the subject of queens always comes up. There's always something about queens every year they're interested in. But we have the ideas we had that came in was around queen rearing, making nukes, and honey tasting.
Yeah, I like that.
What do you guys think?
There probably isn't going to be a lot of taste difference without getting honey from different regions. I mean, we're, within probably a 30-mile radius, so it's all going to be
That'd probably be better like
So-
August or so, I
Well,
think.
yeah, actually, that was kind of my topic I brought up. And we were trying to figure out the logistics of this because of the fact that everybody's still kind of scared of COVID. And I bought honey tasting for dummies because I read an article somewhere and I just wanted to know the mechanics of it. And then it had some French words in it.
You use your tongue.
And I
right?
couldn't explain them. I couldn't pronounce
So is this like that palate thing?
them.
Where
Yes.
you taste a little bit of honey and then you gotta do something to clean your palate?
So what the plan was, if we were gonna do something like this, is I could get Tupelo, 4 kinds of honeys, in a little jar. And have like Tupelo, orange blossom, locust, and buckwheat, I think. Take those 4 jars, put them out there. And then ask like 4 people to bring their honey in. Okay, not that we're gonna judge it and say that, but to get an idea of what it is. I do have some printouts and stuff that we use. And they got a big color wheel that you put up and you look at the color of the honey and then you go around the wheel. And then if it tastes like, one was like cat poop. Or hay or anything like that, you wrote it down there because all of a sudden it's like this chart, you know, that went from here, here to here. And then it told you what kind.
See, this feels like a late season topic. You know,
It could
after,
be, I mean, the trouble is, we were thinking about the logistics of it with the COVID. You know, you have to get, every spoon would have to dip your own out and walk around and taste it that way. You know, but I mean, it was something that was kind of interesting, you know.
Like an
talks about
October type meeting.
crystallization, you know, that it isn't bad, that it's sometimes good, and all this kind of stuff. Colors, that.
yeah, why don't we kind of pencil that in late in the year, like October? We could do something around
Because we could
that.
easily do that here and go through, pass things around easy.
And, you
I
know,
like that idea.
when we were in Florida, we bought a couple of different kinds of honey. And there's one type that we bought, it's called wildflower honey.
Of
Yeah,
course,
winter,
yeah.
winter honey, and it tastes like Melaleuca. Essential oil. I mean, it's, people that taste this, people that taste it, they say, my goodness, they actually sell this?
What kind was it again?
They said it, they forced them.
It really has a pungent smell, and the taste is tastes kind of like medicine.
Like cure COVID or something.
I found a company called Swamp Honey out of Georgia. And their honey is just so good for diabetics too.
Hey, on field days, back to the field days, so,
What do you mean making nukes? What would that entail?
well, I don't know who suggested that, but
Probably what they did.
When you're doing your splits and stuff, how to set up a nuke and That's a-
Years ago, that lady, they had a speaker and she talked about winter nukes.
yeah,
And that was
That was
really
really-
interesting discussion that she had.
and that's kind of like an August topic, I suppose, wouldn't it be about, or July? You got to start those kind of early.
yeah, because.
You got to have enough bees to get.
Well, yeah, but also right behind that's gonna be the discussion about, every year, everybody wants a topic on winterizing before we
Yeah.
go into the winter again. So I think that's just a given, that we need to talk about that somewhere.
Yeah, that's kind of an October thing.
Or even August, actually, probably you got to start. Mhm. I could see August being a lot about mites, counting mites, getting ready for winter, and
So we've got looks like March and April's covered. What would we look at for May? What's going on in May?
Maybe when I started setting up form.
Swarm traps? You know, along with that, I think about hive beetles,
Queens,
Yeah, 'cause that's
queens.
June.
queens and stuff like that.
So that could actually run into our June
June.
workshop. Somebody submitted the topic of artificial insemination, bee breeding. Sounds like Mike.
Well, we do have a resident artificial inseminator.
One number, I've only done a few. It is interesting. It's very interesting. I think what it leads into it in talking about it would be bee breeding and genetics, which I think is really interesting topic, and how you would, organize a club to try to use the genetics of the entire club to try to create a better Ohio bee.
Okay.
I think that's what's really, the artificial insemination to me is a really good topic, and it's very interesting, but if you don't do it or continue to do it, you lose your genetics really rapidly. So it's something that you have to be kind of shooting for. And I would say it's all part of bee breeding and the genetics and how you would objectively judge your hives, and what is your best hive, and which hive do you pick to be your parent hive and your queen and your drone. I think that part is really interesting, and it'd be a really interesting discussion.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
I could get one.
Okay. Why don't we make that the July meeting?
Okay.
Because we're starting that in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave a few openings on the schedule because something's going to come up throughout the year where somebody's going to say, hey, this is going on, we need to talk about this. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move ahead with, in March, try to set up the class around pollinators, native plants, planning for the planting of stuff for the bees for the year. But then we're going to go right into April, and that's where we're going to do the spring management type class for the hives. The dead outs, the splitting them. Yeah, Doug, go ahead.
I noticed you had one here called height of hives of the Yeah, that caught my attention because after moving 2 full boxes this year,
Yeah.
and at the top of the hive, I start thinking, what can I make that looks something like an engine blower that I can pull out here and lift these boxes? Because
Mhm.
suckers are heavy.
Right on.
One thing you could do is go to a horizontal hive, and if you kept it down to like 20 frames, if you wanted to have a super on it, you could put a single super on top of that, and that way that would just be where you take your honey from. That way you'd always be lifting from like the same height, and because you got 20 frames, you could really put 2 supers on top if it was a real heavy flow and you wanted to do it. And if it's still too heavy, go down to a mediums or shallows. So, that would, I started out with the, Kenyan top bar, but I'll tell you, the nice thing is you open it up and it's just, everything's right there.
That's one of the,
This is the problem.
That's one of the reasons Evelyn went to her Slovenia hikes as well too, was to avoid the lifting as well.
And then also Linda Miller, she went primarily to newts. 5-frame newts, and then, with the super on top, so there's just 5 super frames in there, just because of the weight. But I think about some of the things that Tammy and I do. If I have a brood box that's full of nectar, where, they collected it full of nectar, the queen can't lay anywhere in that box. So, I usually take and slap a new brood box on that hive, and I take the current brood box that's full of nectar and put it up on top and make it a super. And that's a great idea until you add 2 more supers on top of it.
Mhm.
And at that point, it's taller than 10. And so then, and I chuckle about this, but as we get older, we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Also, I sell 10-frame equipment, but I'm getting more and more requests for 8-frame equipment. And I have some 8-frame hives, but I primarily use 10-frame hives. But, as I get more and more of those requests, I'm more inclined to start carrying 8-frame equipment. And they tell me it's because of the weight. They're getting older, they don't want 10-frame hives.
If you start looking around, especially in Europe and stuff, there's a lot of 6-frame, 5-frame, 4-frame. In England, they use those weird double height ones. They slide down. So bees don't care. There's a lot of options to do the work around the weight issue.
Maybe we could do, like, maybe Evelyn could talk about her hives and he could talk about his flatter hives, and, just get some viewpoints from the different members on what type of layouts they're using. The flow hive was one. If anybody's using the flow hive, or if anybody's using, there's so many different types out there that I don't know. I've never, because they're so isolated up there in their area.
Yeah, I don't know.
They look so good on
I don't know what it's about.
YouTube. It looks magical on YouTube. But it's like, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, there was another topic that came up. And actually, this came up late in the year. It's this Dusty County Bee Inspector.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'm sure there's an Ottawa County Bee Inspector. But a question came up. What do you expect when one of these people show up in your video? What are they? And one of the recommendations was have the inspector come and walk us through
An inspection.
the process that they use, what they're looking for, what they're trying to accomplish. And I had talked to our inspector in December, and he had said that if that topic came up and the club wanted it, that he would certainly come and give a presentation. I think Ottawa can be used some lessons.
We don't have one at all. Yeah, I know that. I think we don't have one.
Would he know how many hives that are registered are in the county?
I'm sure you would have access to that.
I mean, that'd be kind of interesting to know, because not everybody's a member of the club.
Would it be like a field day, you think? Would he come out and?
Oh, I think he would probably do anything that we, Yeah. What I would like to do with someone like that is we kind of outline what we wanted to talk about, because there's certain things we're curious about, like, I get a call and he says, hey, I'm gonna be at your house in an hour. And okay, well, that's good. But what am I to expect? What's he gonna do? And then do I have any leeway? And like, maybe I've got some baby nukes and I don't want to messing around inside of them. So, those kind of things. How much flexibility is? All right, so I'll talk to, his name is Trent.
Mhm.
I will, but I'll
Baldwin?
call it again and talk to him.
Baldwin.
Yeah. Trent Ball, he's the cast setter. So how about if I take an action to get an updated topic list looking out for the next several months, get it out to the group. One thing I want to get to where we're doing is, you're probably not just going to hear from us through the newsletter, but if there's something that we want to communicate, we'll just get it out to everybody in advance. Hey, this is something we're thinking about, and I'd rather you know about it rather than wait and wait and wait. We're running out of time, but there's something else I want to discuss here that is old business. Last year, we made a new logo. Everybody remember that? And there was quite a bit of discussion around, hey, look, that logo, we really like it. And everybody said, hey, this is the one we want. But are we going to do anything around shirts and hats where I could buy myself a shirt or a hat that's got this logo on it with our Beat Club name? And I haven't talked to anybody about who could do that for us, but I want to capture that under old business. Yeah, so that, because I don't want to lose that, because last year we put a lot of sweat into making a new logo and everything. And there was people that thought, I'd like to have a shirt or a jacket or a hat that's got the Beat Club name and our new emblem. And it wouldn't be any of those things where I wouldn't look at that as a fundraiser. It would just be whatever we could get them made for. We would take the orders for them, and we'd agree on what it would look like, or you pick out your color. And I'm thinking about how I would do this. And then we would find the place to do it and order them. That's what I was thinking. But I don't want to lose that, but I don't know enough about it to say this is how we would do it, because I've never had a shirt made, never had a hat stenciled or embroidered. I don't know.
There's places like Fishing Quest over in Elmore, Ohio, that make racing t-shirts. They do a lot of the layout. They improve your ideas because of graphics. And prices are as fair as anybody. We got somebody in Cleveland doing it now, but they did quite a few of our event shirts for a lot of years.
And I also want to have a place where I can get a shirt that is not 100% cotton, but has a little bit of maybe polyester or something. Have you ever bought a cotton shirt and washed it twice and it doesn't fit anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens.
So I don't want that to happen.
It is the shirt though, right?
It's the shirt. It's not chilly.
Yeah. We always use the Rocket Shop there in Oak Harbor. There's a little place. I don't know if there's probably.
She does a lot of stuff in there. She
Yeah.
has a great selection of fabrics.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be getting around and talking with some folks. So that's the Rocket Shop.
Yeah, I would trust her decision too if she's got a shirt that works or doesn't work, and she'd be pretty good.
Well, that's why I want to carry it under old business right now, because what I'd like to do is have a little group or something that would go off and figure out how to do that.
Give me your logo, I can take it down to the Rocket Shop and get some estimates for it.
All right.
When you go, if you're picking out colors and stuff, last year, they had no stock. We got our third choice for color. You know why it was the third choice? It was the only one they had.
Glass
Hey,
cling
Doc.
for car windows. Oh, yeah, like a glass cling for car windows too was mentioned.
Dr. Stone, can you send Doug
Yeah.
a copy of the logo?
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
And then, yeah, Doug, get some ideas. For me, the big thing though is I want a shirt that's like you know, 40% polyester. I don't want to end up, you know, where you can count my rolls. as I sit there.
Our bulk club got shirts there last year, and we got the ones with, very young, cotton to it.
Yeah.
They're nice shirts, you wash them, you shake them out,
Mhm.
and there's no rate,
Yeah.
and they're cool.
What kind of color would you be looking for? I mean,
You know, I think our logo has a lot of yellow and it's got some white in it. So I don't know, I'm guessing maybe a darker color.
These don't like that.
yeah.
I'm not gonna wear it.
Hmm.
No, yeah,
Last one they got was honey.
no, I'll take a look at that with.
I'll get you
with what
this.
she's-
Yeah. She was pretty good at lining this stuff.
Yeah, and also, ask him about hats.
Oh, yes, she does, yeah.
Because there was people who said, hey, you know, I'd like to get a hat that's got a red line.
The shirts I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
are
she's
gonna
in
run
Not white or bright yellow for dirty.
You know, I would rather pay more for a shirt myself. I would rather pay more for a shirt that I'm gonna get a couple of years use out of.
It was mentioned not white or bright yellow because they get dirty too quickly. That's true.
You said details.
Like window stickers, card sticker, like a window.
What about the ones that peel off instead of permanently?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those,
The
I think
ones
that's what she was
inside
talking
instead
about.
of out?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah. Not like a bumper sticker, but like a window sticker, yeah.
clean.
Even for like your house or on your door or something.
I
like
think she can do that too.
that. Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, Doug, bring us back some ideas. Appreciate you taking that on.
I don't know about the guys, but as a woman, I appreciate from Dina, so I'm not going to do this all the time. Trying to breathe. So, I don't know, you want both of that, you know, regular. and-
Like a
Yeah,
women's- a women's and a
let's
men's
look at what
cut,
they
yeah.
got. What I would hope is that a person could pick out, you know, what style of shirt that they want. You know, they're buying it, you know. Some people may want a polo shirt type thing, like a golfer would wear. You know, there's other people that might want to,
Button down. or-
you know, yeah, but not shirt even. I mean, just see what they got. I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Even sweatshirts, I
The
suppose,
price
too.
starts going up a little bit, I think, if you put this brand in style.
Are they gonna be
If
so?
she can get one style, be able to put the logo.
They'll be
on.
embroidered. Yeah, they'll probably be embroidered.
But
yeah.
We'll take a look at it. See.
all right. All right, so we've approved the budget for next year. We looked ahead at, we've got at least our next
Choosing
two
some tie-dye.
topics, maybe three, laid out. And I'll get that out. I'll take an action to get an updated list out to the group. And then we captured under old business the idea of the shirts and the hats. Are we missing anything? Is there anything that you feel like we're not, you know, that we're not talking about that we should?
Just can't wait for the
What
chili.
has happened with the kids from the school? Are they still involved in their BTG? The touch, a lot of touch, not on the 4-H. Is it something that we need to?
Well, that's a great question. My understanding is, and I think that group was from Clyde High School.
Mhm.
And, yeah, FFA, and it's my understanding that they don't do beekeeping every year. Is that? Yeah, so what they do is they like alternate topics. And so they don't keep a continuous beekeeper curriculum going all the time, you know, year in and year out. So 2 years ago, actually it was before the pandemic, was the last time that I saw them.
Yeah.
And so let me check on them to find out what's going on with them, because, you know, they were rather involved, but then they must have went on to something else.
What happens to their hives?
I don't know.
I think the instructor, Mr. Zimmerman, was kind of filling in the blanks on that during that year. What I understood was the first year they got into bees, or the second year they did. But then the alternating years, they built the hives and the equipment and woodworking and stuff like that. And that's what I was led to believe, but, you know, we'll find more.
Let's check out. I'll give the director first a call. He's on our,
He's a member.
yeah, he's a member, but I'll give him a call and find out. Certainly have room for a younger crowd to join us.
It's a space.
Somebody to lift the box.
It's all. All right. Hey, is there anything else that you want to talk about tonight? Doc, am I missing anything?
I can't think of any.
And the trouble is, in our bylaws, we have to have committees. And that's why we kind of put education, Rich was our educational committee person for years and years. And, you know, that was trying on him. But in our bylaws, it state why we have insurance now and why we got to give so much of our membership to them. And we're one of the very few bee clubs. I think we're about six bee clubs, one of the six that are members of the OSBA. Tom would know better. But our bylaws have to have committees. My hat's off to you folks for being like the shirt committee. But we have like we want to have an educational committee, and maybe you know, a fair committee. I mean, we discussed that on the fair.
Yeah, we discussed fairs, and I'm glad you brought this up, Chris. So in our bylaws, you know, they make reference to committees. And there's a couple of committees that they mentioned specifically. One is an election committee. So if you think about it, it's supposed to be a committee of folks that what they do is they kind of take care of identifying people that might want to be like maybe a future director, future president, future vice president. And yeah, it's like a nominating committee, and that committee kind of takes care of making sure that all that happens, and then we go into December and we have the election, and it just kind of takes care of it. And so I don't think that we're right now, but I think that's in the future, we're going to need to talk more about that, because I think, you know, we all want to get as much out of this as we can, and I think that's one way to do it is utilizing committees. Oh. See, I think that's important. By the way, did everybody get something to eat? Yeah. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, it's gonna be kind of new business.
Thanks for their input. Yes.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Can you show him where the form is?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's.
Yes.